My name is Amir Naseer. I've been hosting this show for the last couple of Saturdays, and I have, of course, with me our usual analyst, Mikael. It's great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, third week in a row. I'm just surprised they had us back again. So excited to be here as always.
Actually, it's on every day.
Cover some World Cup.
It's called Kickoff with the Fanboys, and they're doing a great job. They're on every day. So Saturdays, I do this with Mikael, and I think I did one of the Sundays. But what a World Cup this has been. What a World Cup. When we talk about World Cup upsets, there have been some. The Germany's dumped out, Spain's dumped out. And we've had some great games since the last time we met. England, Senegal. We had Morocco winning on penalties against the Spaniards. Where do we start from? Let's start off with England, Senegal.
I mean, I think let's start off with the fact that this World Cup just continues to throw more twists and turns. And given the expectations coming into it with all the stuff around Qatar, I know it's been talked to death. But this World Cup just continues to get lost to all of the haters that were coming in before, right? Because in my time of watching World Cups, I think this has been the most exciting World Cup that I've witnessed possibly. So again, continues to throw twists and turns our way. We have a number of games to cover. Last 16, I think, since last we met. Netherlands, USA, Argentina, Australia, France, Poland, all of that stuff happened. But let's start with England, Senegal, perhaps.
We'll start off with England, Senegal. But first of all, we, of course, are going to let everybody know, and I don't think there's anybody on this planet who doesn't know that Brazil were dumped yet again by Croatia in a penalty shootout. They're penalty shootout kings, by the way. This is the fourth successive time that the Croats have dumped the Brazilians. And we'll talk in detail about that one. And there's going to be another upset. Well, I'll say it's going to be another upset where the Argentinians were almost just about going to go out against the Dutch. And we'll talk about in length with that. But let's just quickly recap on the games that took place. Spain being dumped out by the Moroccans. And it's just a fairy tale.
I mean, you'll have no sympathy from anyone in Pakistan, I don't think. I think the whole Muslim world, I guess you could say, is firmly behind Morocco. What a story. Beating previous world champs. I wouldn't say this is the same Spanish side from many years ago. They had a lot of problems this World Cup. I think the biggest problem that they had was up front. Their three strikers that started the game, none of them had individually scored more than 10 goals a season. They were all actually bench players for their respective La Liga teams that they played in. I think one of them plays in the German league. But the problem with Spain was they just didn't have goals up front, and you saw that. Obviously, earlier on the tournament, they had a huge win. But after that, the goals sort of dried up a little bit. They just don't have that target front man. And Morata is sort of out of form. So.
And I think towards the second half, it became pretty evident that the Moroccans were playing for a penalty. What a goalkeeper.
Yeah. I mean, that front three of Morocco, the Ziyech and Nesri and Boufal, I think most of them ply their trade in the French league, but just incredibly dynamic, with legs for days, running back and forth, up and down the flanks, making sure that they track back, making sure that they put pressure and they're pushing. They just played with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy, and Spain just couldn't find a way around that. There was something missing up front. Every time they'd have a ton of possession, they'd keep control in the middle, but every time it would go forward, they just couldn't produce a goal. And I don't think, based on the Japan game, I think you mentioned last week on the show, experience goes a long way when it comes to penalty shootouts. Clearly, that wasn't the case with Spain and Morocco.
No, it wasn't.
You would think that the more experienced 10-year team would go through, but and the Moroccans just keep surprising us. They did top their group, by the way. This is not a team that just barely made it by. These guys topped their group. They just beat Spain. Who knows what they could do next?
Well, we'll talk about that towards the middle of the show, where Morocco, of course, are taking on, I say the mighty Portuguese, because I would imagine that in spite of what all that's that happened with Ronaldo, I think he will start. I think he's going to be on the bench, maybe. I think he's...
I don't think... I think you'd be insane to start Ronaldo after the guy who replaced him, Goncalo Ramos, came on.
We have to talk about that in detail. We're not going to do that because that was just absolutely... astonishing. That goal that he scored, goes on to score a hat-trick. What about the Senegal-England?
Senegal-England, I mean, again, I think Morocco and Senegal were probably the two favorite underdog teams that everyone was sort of rooting for. I know I had a lot of expectations for Senegal. Again, who knows what could have happened if Mane was actually in this team. But I was a little surprised. I think last week on the show, I called I actually
You
called an
did.
upset. I
Actually,
said
one of the
I thought
scores
Senegal might win.
was exactly what you called for. We'll go back to the recording and just see
A
that
couple
one.
of those I did call. I will give myself a little pat on the shoulder for that. I think the France game I called, and I think the Argentina-Australia game I called 2-1. So I will give myself a little pat on the back for that. But England-Senegal, I think it's always great when you see a team peaking at the right time. I keep talking about this throughout the World Cup, but Southgate's come under a lot of criticism for having a very stale approach. But he made the changes necessary. He got Walker in. He got the experience of Henderson in. Foden is starting. I mean, look at the impact that Foden's had. All of a sudden, he's in the team. They win their last two games 3-0. And they look amazing doing that. Last game against Senegal, Saka, Henderson, and I think Foden himself, all on the score sheet. And England are just looking fantastic right now.
Before we get into yesterday's two games and the ones that are going to take place tonight, quickly recap some of the games, and especially let's talk about Messi. I mean, he's 35 years old. I will come back to that great assist he gave for Molina to score, dribble about, I think, 3-4 defenders. But in the game against, was it Australia?
Australia game, he scored. He was magnificent. That game controlled the tempo. The game last night, an incredible assist and a goal as well. I mean, he's getting it done. Whereas on the other side, sadly, we're seeing the decline of another great who's unfortunately
Ronaldo.
going in the opposite direction.
Well, they've actually said that in a poll in the Portuguese that he is the greatest Portuguese footballer, and I
There's no question about that. He's probably
Well,
one of the greatest footballers of all time.
He is, but when they say one of the greatest Portuguese footballers, and if there are any Portuguese listening, there was a player called Eusebio who used to play for Benfica, and
I believe they won a Euro with him, right?
well,
They won a
Portugal
Euro
has.
once?
I think the best Portugal has done is come third in the World Cup. They've never, but they've won the Euro, and I think it was 1966, and it was Eusebio. And
Yes, I
and
believe
for
so.
me, Eusebio, who played for Benfica, was. It's a tough one, So it's a personal opinion of mine, but
we are a little biased by recency bias, but
yeah,
if I was to make a top 5 list today, you'd have to put Messi number 1.
absolutely.
Undisputed, the greatest football player of all time, no doubt about that. It becomes a little tricky after that, but I would have Ronaldo in that top 5 without a doubt. You probably see Maradona somewhere there.
He's definitely right.
I'd put Zizou in there, but that's just me.
Yeah,
but last week again, Argentina barely actually survived. This Australian team as well. Again, it's the year of the underdog. This Australian team was really doubted along the way. They came back. They scored another goal, 2-1.
Yes.
And there was that run. I forget his name. I
Yeah.
apologize, but I think he went through about 7 different players dribbling through.
I know which one you're talking about.
It was a last-ditch tackle. Maybe it was Otamendi. I can't be sure, but my God, Australia were in there the entire time.
Good. They were looking good.
But other than that, there was also France, Poland, Giroud breaking the record for most
and he's looking good.
goals as a.
And
as a
it's
French
scary
player.
when you look at the French attack: Mbappe, Giroud, and Griezmann. He's not even missing Benzema.
And this isn't even Griezmann. This isn't even prime Griezmann. This is Griezmann a little bit removed from his prime days, but they're still firing on all cylinders. And Dembele has been fantastic as well. I mean, he's been good enough to keep Kingsley Coman out of the squad, who's a phenomenal player as well. But Mbappe just performing on another level. I mean, between him and Messi, I don't know who's been more important for their team. You could argue both of them equally. It'll be interesting to see who gets the golden boot at the end of this and who gets the most valuable player of the tournament. But Mbappe, man, those 2 goals he scored.
We'll talk more about Messi, because Messi, of course, was in the news again because of the referee, and he actually said this particular referee has a thing for me from La Liga days. But we'll come back to when we talk about the game. Let's get down to Brazil being dumped by the Croats for the 4th successive time. Are the Croats penalty shootout kings?
At this point, I would say yes. Croatia is an interesting team because we've seen this, and maybe this is just football changing, and if anyone's listening in, please feel free to comment on this, but I believe that in the last couple of years, football's changed from a formational sense. The traditional front man that you used to have back in the day, the center forward, so to speak, that not a lot of teams have that anymore. And we've seen that be an issue throughout this tournament. We saw that with Germany. They were relying on Muller. Muller was in his prime 8 years ago. He hasn't been the same player for a long time, but guess what? They didn't have a choice. Timo Werner was out injured, so they had to play him, and they just didn't have any goals up front. Same thing with Spain. Spain did not have an out-and-out striker. They suffered for it. The same deal with Croatia. Croatia don't really have a proven goal scorer, someone who can bang in goals on a consistent basis, and that's why they are the team that they are. They don't score a lot, but they also don't let you score a lot. So they're defensively very sound. They have a very experienced middle three. They've got Perisic there. They've got Modric there. Kovacic there as well.
And they're mentally so strong.
Mentally strong, defensively sound. They're hard to penetrate. But unfortunately, it also comes with a cost that they don't score a lot. But it's just very hard to get past them. Inevitably, you'll go to a penalty shootout, and somehow they win.
And it's interesting that Dalic, their coach, actually said that watch out from Croatia because my players are not normal. He actually said that. He said, I do not have normal players.
Yeah, I think if we're highlighting standout players of this tournament, if we're highlighting Mbappe, if we're highlighting Messi, maybe he's not scoring all the goals and doing all the flashy stuff, but Modric, he has to be highlighted. Absolutely.
But Mikael, I'll have to tell you honestly, is some great games we've had. We're talking about Croatia, Brazil. Brazil dumped out by the Croats. For the fourth consecutive time, penalty shootout. They are the penalty shootout kings. What went wrong with Brazil? Hang on. Before you reply to that, personally, it wasn't Brazilian samba yesterday. And I've seen the Brazilians from the 70s, Pelé. Then you had the greatest Brazilian team that never won the World Cup, the 82 one, Zico and Socrates, Ede. This just didn't have... Garrincha was, of course, before. But this just didn't have that Brazilian samba.
Which was surprising because the game before that against the South Koreans, that was complete samba. They were dancing. Tite, their coach, was even dancing with them that a couple of people took offense to. I think it's all good. It's all okay. But the game before that against the South Koreans, they were looking mercurial. I mean, Paqueta... that guy's going to get picked up by a big club 100% at some point next summer. Vinicius finally fulfilling his potential with an assist and a goal. He was looking amazing. And you thought that this Neymar was back in the team as well for that Korea game. You also had a contender for the goal of the tournament that Korea scored. Consolation goal, probably won't matter in the grander scheme of things, but what a goal.
But by the time you get through these stages, you get to the quarterfinals, Mikael, that's what separates the boys from the men. I mean, when you're playing the quarterfinals,
sometimes you do everything you can, but you just go up against a wall. In this case, that wall was Levakovic, the Croatian keeper. Not only did he, throughout the match, he made incredible saves, but his performance in the penalty shootout as well. Countless times he denied Neymar, Vinny from scoring opportunities. So I think credit needs to be given to him as well for having an outstanding performance.
Oh, and in a shootout, as you know, when you save the first penalty, the advantage is already, the pressure's on the other team.
The pressure is definitely on, but you would still expect a team like Brazil with all their superstars to have practice penalties, to have to have a little bit more experience going in there. But what a game, a very cagey affair for the entirety of it, for the full 90 minutes. And then Neymar comes in and scores.
It was a typical quarterfinal World Cup quarterfinal. I mean, when you say KG, that's exactly what quarterfinals. Yeah. If you go back,
it depends. Some are cagey, but again, I've talked about how Croatia play as a team. I think they bring that caginess out of their opponents. Whereas Argentina and Netherlands, that was a pretty open, action-packed.
We'll come to that because nothing was separating the 120 minutes between Argentina and Netherlands. They were but I thought Tiche change. I was a little taken aback when Vinicius was swapped.
Yeah, I think probably just a case of tired legs. They do have, they've got a great bench. Anthony, Rodrigo. They've got, tons of flair and pace that can come on as well. So that one sort of made sense. Maybe just ran himself ragged by the end of it. But Petkovic coming in, scoring that goal, and I felt that was going to happen. Brazil scored. People were jumping out of their seats.
And what a goal by Neymar.
I had a feeling that it wasn't over. What a great goal, of course. But at the end of the day, counts for nothing, sadly.
Brazil knocked out yet again. And then, of course, more drama. The one at midnight, Karachi time. Netherlands.
I think one of the greatest World Cup games ever.
It was fantastic. It was Messi had firmly arrived at the party. He was looking sublime, and nothing separating the two teams for the 120 minutes till extra time and the penalties.
Yeah. It was interesting to see that Van Gaal switched up their formation a little bit. They were almost playing like it was almost like a 4-1-2-1-2 with two front men, and then they had Gakpo actually behind both of the front guys, playing as more of an attacking midfielder when usually he's more of an out-and-out striker. Memphis was actually playing ahead of him technically. So it was an interesting formation that they were playing. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. Classic AC Milan 4-1-2-1-2 diamond. But what a game.
But tell me, why the Dutch have already had a really talented team. I mean, and they've never won a World Cup, by the way, and the closest they came to was probably 1974 when they had that great team. And whereas you've got and that team had Johan Cruyff, the man who made Barcelona and beautiful football, total football, and then eventually Spain started playing like that. Why is it that the Dutch just don't? Is it because their league is not at the same level as La Liga and the Premier League, or is it that?
Not so much, because I would say their team is a bit 50-50 split. Most of them play outside of the Dutch league, but again, they do have a lot of Eindhoven and Ajax players in the team, right? As well. So like Klaassen and Gakpo and players like that. So it's a nice mix that they have, and we all know that Ajax is very well known for producing the future generation of talents, right? They're producing players right now that in the next 5, 10, 15 years are going to get picked up by Barcelona and teams like this.
But maybe also because they also have carried on with, I mean, people like Robin Schneider are still making the squad. So,
Well, no, I think this. I actually think this Dutch side. You've got a good mix of experience and youth as well. You've got Van Dijk. You've got again the youth with Ake and stuff at the back, and Gakpo being given a shot up front and performing. He scored I think every game before this until this one. So I think it's a good mix of youth and experience. I don't think this Dutch side. I think going out on penalties, it's not necessarily a reflection on who the better team was, because this game was very close, right?
It's a bit of a lottery.
You probably had the greatest super sub of all time in, and I might mispronounce this, Weghorst, I think it's with a V, 6'6" giant, comes in, scores that first goal, it's 2-1. You're like, okay, maybe there's something here, and then in the 100.
Yes, it was.
And 10th minute
it was
of literally the last second of the last. He let it go over as well. It was 10 minutes of extra time. He scored at 1:10:38. So he let them play for another 30 seconds. Literally the last kick of the game. They had a free kick. That free kick? I've never seen anything like that before. They pass the ball into the box. He turns, he shoots, he scores.
It was incredible.
I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. If anyone has, please, if there's a game that comes close to this one, please, remind the listeners, remind us what that game was. I can't remember a game that was this
great pace, and of course had a lot of drama also, because you had the referee giving out a world record 17 yellow cards. Was it 17? I think it was 15 or 17, but it was a world record.
Yeah, it reminds me of that legendary, I think it was Portugal-Netherlands game, the 2006 World Cup, that had 3 red cards, 14 yellow cards. It was a battlefield.
The 2 big ones today, and of course on the 13th of December, we've got the first semi-final, which has been decided. Croatia-Argentina, that we will wrap up the show with that one. But Morocco is taking on Portugal today. Who could have actually thought Morocco was going to be here against Portugal?
And with a real chance of winning. I think they're going to get it done.
If you're a romantic, then of course, if you let your heart rule, then I think yes, Morocco. But
we've already seen that Brazil blew the South Koreans out of the water. Next game, don't end up winning. Portugal had an incredible performance against the Swiss. I mean, the Swiss are no joke. They're not an easy team to score 6 goals against. And but man, what a performance from Ronaldo's replacement, Goncalo Ramos. This guy's gonna
He's
go
22 years
places.
old, and he's comfortable with both.
But I don't know if
and
you remember
right.
that first goal of his. It was an absolute bullet.
And there's no shame in the goalkeeper saying that there's absolutely nothing.
The goalkeeper was legitimately standing on the same pole. Like it's not like he was on the other side of the goal. He was right there. He could do nothing about that. The guy got the ball, one touch, turn, bullet right into the top corner.
Cannon shot.
Unstoppable.
And he's called the Wizard, by the way. That's his nickname, Ramos the Wizard. And he's equally comfortable with both left and right.
You had Pepe turning back the clock with again.
How old is Pepe? 39. He's 39 years old.
39, I believe. Yeah,
Incredible.
With a bullet of a header, and then you had Rafael Leao, who great young talent, great impact sub as well, coming on and really making things happen. So they looked fantastic in their last game. But this Moroccan team has something in them. They have something in them that I believe that can give them the edge. I'm sensing another penalty shoot. I don't know why. I'm just feeling like there's another penalty shootout in the books for this one.
Do you think the same team is going to go on 120 plus another? That's you need a lot of stamina to do that in 48 hours.
They've shown that they have the legs. They've shown that they can keep up with the likes of Spain, put the pressure, stop them from playing their close control, pass type of football. So I'm sensing I'm gonna say a 1-1 penalty shootout.
1-1 penalty shootout. I'm going to say a 2-1 Portugal. I want my heart wants Morocco to win, but I think
we've seen it happen before. If anyone remembers Greece 2004, no one gave the Greeks a chance, and there was no one outstanding in that team.
You're talking about Euro, right?
Karisteas, the only guy up front. Every single goal of his was the exact same. It was a header from either a set piece or a cross in. But they did it. They actually beat. Upset. And guess who they beat? They beat Portugal in the final. Are we seeing another Greece, another Euro 2004?
Well, Mikael says it goes to penalties and eventually the Moroccans win. I say 2-1 to Portugal. And then at midnight Karachi time, Pakistan time, we have France taking on England.
The big one. The big one. The last time, I'm trying to remember, I think... I believe France and England played each other in the 2004 Euro, if I remember correctly. That's just one game that stands out to me where I think Zizou scored both the goals. And they came back, they were 1-0 down.
That half volley.
And then Zizou scored 2 goals. One of them was a penalty, and they came back to actually beat England 2-1. And actually, England looked better throughout the entire game. Yeah. If I'm remembering correctly, again, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I believe that was the 2004 Euros where that happened.
So what do you think Southgate's going to do? Is he going to stick with his 4 backs, or will he switch
100%. I think you should stick with the exact squad that he lined up against Senegal with Foden up there. Actually, this is a good question. Is Sterling back?
Sterling is back.
He's back.
Yes.
So it remains to be seen whether he plays. I don't think he should put Sterling back in the squad. I think that front three of Kane, Foden, and Saka, I think that's who he should stick with.
And Kyle Walker has to stick to Mbappe.
And Kyle Walker has to stick to Mbappe like glue. If there's anyone that can keep up with the pace of Mbappe, it's Kyle Walker. That's going to be a fascinating head-to-head that's going to be going on all night. So yes, but I think you should keep the same squad. He brought in Henderson last time for the experience, as the captain, and it paid dividends. He came in with a goal, and he just brings something to the squad. He brings a lot of composure. I think he brings a lot of big match experience. Because again, this England squad is a mix of youth and experience, right? Kane finally got on the score sheet recently as well. He hasn't had a very high-scoring World Cup, but. Let's see if this is the game where he comes on. It's going to be him versus Giroud. There's a lot of compelling matchups going on there. But a match.
Your call on this one?
This one's a tough one.
I don't think this one's going to penalties.
I don't think it's inconceivable to see France come in and just completely blow England out of the water. I don't think it's inconceivable to see it be a close, cagey affair, maybe like a 2-1 type of game. I think anything can happen this game. It just depends on what England show up today.
Well, thank you so much for being so clear. Like anything could happen. I've absolutely no clue.
I'll make a prediction. Let's say I'll say 2-1 France.
2-1
2-1
France.
France.
Yeah?
Play it safe.
2-1 France. This one's not going to penalties.
I don't think so.
Right, so 13 December is the first semi-final, and that is Croatia taking on Argentina. Now that should be a really interesting game.
Yeah. I
Two
mean,
different styles of football.
Argentina had a lot to celebrate about, not just the fact that they made it, that they won on a penalty shootout. I felt like they were really rubbing it in on the Netherlands team, which was a little upsetting to see. But Brazil didn't make it. Argentina's celebrating around the world, but yeah, that'll be another great game.
I'll tell you what, we're running out of time. Quick one on that one: Croatia, Argentina, and we wrap up the show.
I think this could be Messi's year to finally win it, so I think Argentina wins
Argentina. On that note, Mikael, it's great to have you on Kickoff. I'm not too sure if I'm going to see you next Kickoff because I know you're traveling, but it's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Absolutely, likewise.
Thank you so much. That was Kickoff. My name is Amir Naseer. You had Mikael right here on City FM 89. The fanboys are going to be back throughout the week, tomorrow, 4 to 4 o'clock. So until we meet again, have a super week. Hasta la vista.